Texarkana to come speak to us today. Some of you are familiar with Bill and his writings, his teachings. At the branch, we're very familiar. The things that Abba has given him have been very inspiring and a great blessing to us individually and as a whole at our congregation. So we're happy to have Bill and his family. We were able to spend some time getting to know them a little bit better last night and this morning. It's just a blessing that they're here. He's done these different series that I didn't know, but originally came from a homeschool curriculum that he had prepared for his children to really pass on the truths of the Lord. And it's so beautiful because now knowing that, I feel that, and I think back to the times that I've listened and read, and that is really how it comes across, a father to a child to explain the deep things, the true things, the good things of the Lord. And that's truly what they are. If you haven't read or listened to it, that's really how it comes across. And really, if I could just put it in a nutshell, it conveys the heart matters of the truths of God. And they've just been so special to us, and we've really learned a lot. So I'd like to invite Bill to come up and present what Abba has given him today.
I'm going to stand over here for a while. Rosemary, my wife, that's Rosemary back in the back, by the water fountain over there. And I watch her at all times because she tells me when I'm moving too much. She tells me when I'm talking too fast. She tells me when I need to move on to the next subject. She has this little, and so she's invaluable. I wanted to, if I could have caught Joe before he sat down, I would have had him play something of this. If I could have caught Joe before he sat down, I could have. Could you go ahead and get the guitar? Great. And just the same thing you were playing, just the melody. It doesn't really matter. It's spontaneous, and I've got a message that the Lord gave me on the plane for Colorado Springs and for you, and I'll try to give it to you in song as best I can and see what the Holy One does, but then we'll go into some other elements of the Word. So just go ahead and play it. If you would say a prayer and are able to receive, because this is just something that your King really wants to tell your heart. I have met you all before. I come again now to your door. I'm knocking at your heart. I'm calling to my child. I'm calling you forth. I'm calling you out. You are my masterpiece, prepared before the foundation of the world. You are my treasure. You are my sparks of holiness. I have chosen you, and I have loved you from afar, and now I want to love you right up close. I want to love you where you are. You are my masterpiece, my hidden treasure, my hidden sparks of holiness, just waiting to be released. You are my masterpiece. And I know the sorrows that you faced. I know the losses you have incurred. I know the fear that grips your heart. I know that you need my love. You need my love so dearly. And I've come across the mountains and I've come across the valleys to where you are. And I won't leave without you, my child.
I won't leave without touching you. I won't leave without loving you. I won't leave without holding you. I won't leave without caressing your heart and awakening you. You are my masterpiece, my hidden treasure. You are my holy sparks of beauty, just waiting to be released. Let my spirit breathe on you. Let the healing touch of Yeshua be all over you. Let me awaken the love that's grown dormant and cold. Let me take you back to first love. Take you back to innocence. Awaken you to life. You are my masterpiece. You are my hidden treasure. You are the hidden sparks of holiness that I'm ready to release. You are my masterpiece. Brush strokes in your life. Some of them in the darker shades of gray, and some of them in the brighter shades of precious blues and reds and oranges. But all these brush strokes of your life, every life experience that you've had, and every encounter, every difficult encounter, every exuberant encounter, every hope that you have, I have placed healing within your heart. I have placed hope within your heart and trust within your heart. And because you are my masterpiece, I will not forsake you. I wrote you, I designed you. I planned you from the beginnings of the foundation of the world. And I'm not going to give up on you. I will never turn my back on you. I will bring you forth to the fullness of the beauty that I ordained for you to have. Because the world needs the beauty that is in you. The world needs the beauty that I call forth from you now. And I'm here, and you will not leave the same. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. We at Texarkana, at Regions, now most of you may know Texarkana from the Smokey and the Bandit movie. That's where they left to go get the Coors beer in Atlanta. But really, believe it, I've never seen Smokey, and I've never seen the Bandit. So, well, that's not why I'm here. The Lord just really impacted on my heart, or put on my heart as we were coming out here. So why am I coming to Colorado Springs and this area right here? As opposed to other things. I go many places and speak, and I never want to go with some sort of a stale word. I never want to go with yesterday's manna. I never want to go with something I've ever taught before. So you're going to hear, I presume, if we get there, you'll hear something that has never been heard by anybody before. It's because it's fresh and it's designed. I'm asking him what he wanted to do. He says, I want to release the hidden treasures in the people there because the people around them need it so desperately. While he loves you, and while he individually and personally cares about where you are in your life and what you're doing, the real bigger picture is he intends to use you. He intends to use you to impact your spheres of influence, all the areas in which he's placed you, like the master at the chessboard, who knows exactly where to put a knight, and where to put a bishop, and where to put a castle or a rook, and where to put his queen. You are the queen. The queen is the most strategic piece on the chessboard because the queen can do virtually anything on the board. When it's called by the king, when the king authorizes the queen can do that. And this is that level. He says, I'm going to establish you. And last night we saw something over at Joe's house. And in that house, it started with this little girl who's 2. One, what is she? 2. And her name is Elizabeth. And, you know, when we walk in, Sydney, her mama, was there, and you know, we're strangers. We come out of Texas. I mean, what can you say? And here she is, and here's Sydney. She greets us at the door, and Elizabeth is holding on to her leg, behind her leg, you know, just like moving around. So when we come around, she moves around the other side. And of course, see Elizabeth and not love her. She captures your heart immediately. And so I'm watching her through the evening. And over the course of the evening, she spotted my son, the long-haired guy back over there. At some particular stage, she began to get more comfortable with us, and she began to get a lot more comfortable with John Michael and with his beautiful bride, Kinsey. And so after a period of time, this little girl who was kind of cowering behind her mother's leg and sort of hiding and not sure what to do with us, she began to just kind of just make herself right at home with John Michael. She was in his lap or in his arms and all over Kinsey. And she, matter of fact, she'd get up in his face and she would pull his hair. And I'm not sure he liked all of that. But he was a good sport, and he's really used to being around children, and so it's no problem for him. And then I thought about that last night, how beautiful that was, and how the adjustment period, it took a little adjustment period for her to get very comfortable. But once she got comfortable, she gave her heart and her soul to John Michael. Total trust and just an enthusiasm and an enjoyment. She enjoyed John Michael. And so we go home and we spend an evening, a beautiful evening over at Adam and Denise's place, and I'm laying my head down on the bed, and all of a sudden pops into my head Elizabeth and Sydney's leg. And the course of the evening and the transition that took place, and then her laughing in John Michael's face, looking him in the eyeballs, pulling his hair, and delighting in him. And the Lord spoke to me. He said, now do you understand? This is what my children are not familiar. They don't know if they really trust me when I first begin to appear to them and speak to them. They don't really understand. They're like Elizabeth behind her mama's leg. And they hide behind religion. And they hide behind theology. And they hide behind, privacy, personal space. And they hide like this until they realize and they're drawn to the beauty of who I am, who he is. Like she was drawn to John Michael and the hair and the whole face and the gentleness of his big bear characteristics that he's got. And it's like that is his build. That's the way I did with you. You were afraid of me too. Even when you said, I believe in him, I know he exists, the creator of the universe. He's real, and then Yeshua came and he sacrificed his life for me and for the world. He died for the sins of the world and brought redemption and then released the Holy Spirit. I know all this theologically, but when I come to you, you still cower behind your mother's leg. You still hide behind your doctrines, your theologies, your religion, and all your points until you get comfortable with my presence. And the most important thing you have to do is be consumed by my beauty and my gentleness and my kindness. Because at the moment you start to think I'm angry, the moment you start to think that I am about retribution and punishment, and that I'm ticked off and I'm frustrated and I'm stressed, about the time that you think that I'm so upset about the things that are going on in the world, you can no longer relate to me like this. And you don't come to me like a little child anymore. And you can't come to other people that way either. Because you have this fear factor. You operate out of a fear factor. He says, so when I want you to go, Bill, I want you to go with my ambassador, and I want you to talk about Elizabeth for a little while. And I want you to, everyone in this room is Elizabeth. Everyone in this room, whatever your name is and whatever your gender is, and however old you are, is Elizabeth in regard to the creator of the universe. And he says, get comfortable with me now. Watch me for a while and see if I'm not beautiful. Not me, him. See if I'm not good. See if I'm not kind. See if you can't trust me. And see if you don't want to crawl up in his lap. And pull his hair if you could. And laugh at his face. And see his face laughing back at you. Now, if you can understand that, you can understand what he's going to do with you. Because if he can do that with you today, this time in this meeting, or any other day that we can meet, if he could do this with you, then you could do this with other people. Then you could be that kind person, that gentle person, that loving person, that understanding person with regard to the people in your sphere of influence. And if you could do that, then all the walls would break down. One at a time, it wouldn't happen all at once with every person, but over the course of time of your interactions, you would see the walls begin to break down. And that's the hidden masterpiece, the hidden treasures, the hidden sparks of holiness that he's wanting to bring out of everyone, is that little child who's willing to look into his face, pull his hair, laugh, be joyful, and be trusting, and then turn around and give that away to somebody else. Now, with that being said, that's sort of a general statement of everything else we'll talk about. This picture, anybody been to En-Gedi in Israel? Okay. Well, so you probably recognize those steps then. Those steps are from a picture taken at En-Gedi. And you know, whenever you start at the lowest sea level. This is this garden area right next to the Dead Sea. And the lowest level on the entire earth, and then you start going up and up and up. And the place where David used to hide from Saul. It's been used for lots of years, lots of generations, for different people. And it is the one oasis in the entire dead spot of the Dead Sea, the biggest oasis at least. Well, this is going up. And the most important thing, I think, if nothing else that you remember other than the Elizabeth story that I talked about, is this. You are being called to a season of transition. Okay? The point of all that is, most of us get very comfortable with the status quo. As a matter of fact, we become advocates of the status quo. And you've heard yourself probably say things like this, or other people say this. Well, that's not the way we do it. Or that's not the way it happens. And I want you to tell you a message from your Abba, a message from the Holy One, that doing things the way they've always been done is just not the way he rolls. It's doing things the ways that you've never seen done.
Right.
He delights in that because it allows his people to birth the creativity and birth the faith and birth the masterpiece. And it's taking you into situations, and he does this thing in this transition format that I sometimes don't appreciate at first. And that is what I call pushing me to the threshold of pain. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Well, the Holy One knows that if we stay the way we are, if we deal with our comfort zone and our status quo as things are, we'll never progress. We'll be in a rut forever and ever. We'll keep going. As he said to Moshe, you have been around this mountain long enough. And in Hebrew is Rav Lachem, enough of this. Great enough. Most enough. Rav Lachem. And he says, you can't stay in this status quo forever. I'm always on a journey. And there are basically two phases of life with the Holy One, life in any form of relationship with him. And the first phase is what I call refuge or stronghold phase. I have got mine. I got my Ford, my wife, my husband, my child. I got my dog. I got something. It's mine. I got a place to stay. It's my refuge. It's my stronghold. Don't mess with me. And you can't hurt me because I got my safe place, King's X, the old child's game. And this is a methodology that probably 70% of people who claim a relationship with the Holy One have adopted. This is an approach to life. Don't mess with me, world. Don't mess with me, politics. Don't mess with me, government. Don't mess with me, religion. Anybody else's thing. I got mine. I'm in my status quo. I'm comfortable in here. Do not mess with me. I call it also the hunker down mentality. Hunker down. And don't let nobody take nothing from you, whatever that case may be. And you can take that to the extreme of, and I won't go too deep into this, but you can go into all sorts of survivalist things and prepping and various different things. You take it to an extreme. Now, if we believe that our King has put us here to hide, if we believe that the Creator of the universe has put us here to be afraid, if we believe for a second that the Creator of the universe has given us life and breath and the ability to think and speak and talk and relate to human beings at such a time as this so that we could hide ourselves away and nobody could find us and nobody could hurt us, then I think you don't know him very well. I think you're following behind, Sydney's leg over here saying, don't hurt me. He says, I want to take you to the threshold of your pain. And I'm not trying to hurt you in that. I'm trying to help you grow. And if I don't take you there, you'll never move. And so really, it probably should better be called a threshold of discomfort. Because it's a life outside your comfort zone. Something that pushes you outside your comfort zone. Sometimes there is an emotional aspect to it. Because we like to be in control of our emotions. We like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to burst out laughing at the joke you tell. I'm not going to get caught up in any of the move. I'm here. Dazzle me. How dare you? Dazzle me in this process. Break me out of my emotional, what do they call it? My flat emotional status. And he says, I don't like you there. You're not very helpful to me there. Where you're helpful to me is when you're singing a love song with all your heart. Where you're helpful to me is where you're giving a love and telling the story in your actions and in your behavior. And you tell it with passion, and you tell it with enthusiasm, and you tell it with joy. And you are delighting in me, and you are delighting in the creation that I have made, which includes people that in your flesh you don't want. Now, when you understand this is where he's trying to push us, then this little slide right here, approaching a season of journeys, transformations, and transitions. If you could have a bugle here that could play taps, I would say play taps for the status quo. The status quo is not permissible. It is not acceptable. It is certainly not desirable. That is why he's wakening his masterpiece. He's calling forth. He says, now you got masterpiece stuff in you. You've got glory stuff in you. You've got power stuff in you. You've got kindness and mercy all in you. Don't you lock it behind a stronghold. Don't you lock it behind a refuge. Let me draw it out of you. And just like the painter, and again, staying with Denise is so amazing because I can see the painting. I can see the colors that she's drawn. And she saw them before she put them on the board. She saw them before she mixed this and that to make it turn into that color. And when by the time she got the mix just right with what she saw in her heart, what she felt in her spirit, she put it on the canvas, and your heart just melts. Because that color by itself is enough to awaken your passions and your joy. Well, that's what he wants to do with you. He wants you to be a joy to be around. He wants you to be a delight to everybody you talk to. Now, there's certain things, along with your status quo, that you need to play taps for. One of them is a sense that the world is going to hell. There are individual people who are going to hell, but the world belongs to Allah. It belongs to our King. And he created it, and he does not let his creations go to hell. His desire is to bring forth redemption, and that's the other thing we'll learn about this journeys, transformations, and transitions phase is it is all about redemption. He is a redeemer, and when you read the Torah, you read the scriptures, and you read all of these passages about redemption, what you understand is God looks at the world different than we do. And he looks at situations that make our knees buckle. And people who look like there is no chance that person can be delivered from the mess they're in, they don't even want to be. At the moment we look at them, they are an impossibility. And his eyes, he adjusts his lens and says, no, it's just a matter of what it will take for redemption. It's just a matter of how much I'm willing to spend. What is the price of redemption for this one? You can get into any level of things that make us cringe or make parents cringe if their children are involved in them. You get any of the negative or the bad behavior, the bad lifestyles, any of those things that we look at and say, well, they've just gone too far to save. And God says, no, just adjust the lens. Don't look at where they are now. Look at what I created in them and what it will take to breathe on that, blow on that, and call forth the embers of what I've designed them to do and come forth. So to learn to go into the season of journeys, transformations, and transitions is to say, Abba, I'm going to need your eyes for this. Father, I'm going to need to be able to see people through your eyes. I want to be able to see the hope of the future, the hope of redemption in this difficult situation. Now, most of us theologically know this. I don't think I'm telling anybody something new. Rob Shaul, we know is Paul, the apostle. He wrote this strange thing in Romans that everybody quotes, but nobody lives. God works all things together for good. And that all is a very fascinating Hebrew word. It means all. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what this means. You don't need to do a word study to figure out what this means. God works all things together for good for those who love Him, who are called according to His purpose. And we look at the other thing that the psalmist says, in light of that, he says, fret not because of evildoers. You've read it 100 times, right? Fret not because of evildoers. And so what do we spend our time doing? Fretting over evildoers, looking at situations and says, that's so bad, God can't redeem it. He can't bring good out of this. And we say, where did the line, what made this great divide between what we believe theologically and how we live our lives and how we relate to real situations? And that's why it's time for a season of journeys, transformations, and transitions. Now, the idea of a journey mentality, and I like to call it, as Adam was talking to you, the rabbi's son's studies that I do are a love story to my children. I mean, so they're not like they're not a theological treatise or nothing like that. They're designed to awaken in the children that God gave to me the gifts and the potential and the hunger for His ways and His thoughts that He designed into them. The most I could possibly do to bring that. I want it to be a legacy. I want it to go on and to teach their children these things and go beyond what I did. I want them to go way beyond where I am. I want to set a platform and let them go far beyond that. And so it's my privilege to have John Michael with us, who's the youngest of the batch over there. And from the time he was 3 years old, less than that, he was a baby. And he grew up, and his brothers were in the room, his older brothers in the room with their Tanakh, with their Hebrew Bible, and with their home study, with their studies that I prepared for him, and talking about it, doing it, going through the prayers, doing all this process. He grew up in it, and the first book he ever pulled out to read was the Tanakh, was the Hebrew Bible. And he grew up on it. He learned that process. And so the most thing he wanted to do more than anything else was get in there with his brothers and have his own cheat seat at his own desk where he could be involved in the process. Now, I don't tell you that to try to brag on our family, although I would love to do that. We'll spend time later, I'll brag on my family. Is to tell you that in the season of journeys and transformations and transitions, He wants you to have that level of impact upon people in your own family, for one, but not just your own family, other people, that kind of level where they want what you have. We have a story. Man, do we have a story?
Yes.
I mean, people pay good money for music to go by to a love story that'll sort of, for a few seconds, stir their hearts. We got the love song of the ages refreshing itself every few seconds in our life, retelling the beauty and adding to the. Why would they not want that? But if we're hiding behind our dog mama's leg, afraid to release it, then they don't know. They're looking for anything they can get. Any kind of relationship will make them feel somehow valuable. And the one thing they need most is to understand that their Father in heaven, the Creator, loves them with that level of deep passion. And so, where did you say who has the
It's on the music stand.
clicker? Is it over here somewhere? I see it. Before we move on, I should say this. Journey means, journey starts with a departure. Where does He want you to depart from? What does He want you to leave? You got to leave something behind to take a journey. A transformation is similar to that. A transformation requires you to say, okay, this is the part of me that needs to change. This is the way of thinking that needs to change. This is the way of handling my emotions that needs to change. This is the way of behaving and reacting to stresses and reacting to problems and reacting to people that needs to change. So we're going to stop and we're going to pray before we click this clicker. And we're going to, if you would just find your position of prayer, wherever that may be. Father, you come to bring forth masterpieces and hidden sparks of holiness and treasures. But we know that to get to those places, to get those masterpieces flowing, to get the sparks of holiness glowing again, that you need to put your finger on certain things in us, certain things we need to leave behind. And you need to put your finger and touch the place of discomfort. Things that need to be transformed, that need to change about our attitudes and about our approaches and about our behaviors. Even about the way we handle thoughts and emotions. Father, make the changes. Touch us. Do surgery on our hearts. Do surgery on our minds. Awaken us to our wonder and awe at who you are and the beauty of who you are, that we would be willing to follow you in this next season of transitions. Amen. All right, now, if I can figure out how to... Oh, there it works. Now, here is the thing about the season of transformations, transitions, journey. We are not going to go through this alone. This is not a self-improvement project. The books at the bookstore, the bookstore is full of books about self-improvement. The Holy One never wrote a single book about self-improvement. He does not want you to improve yourself. He wants you to be more like Him. He wants you to walk with Him and let Him improve you. And that is an interesting thing. And so in the Torah we read in Exodus 40, whenever the cloud was taken up from the Mishkan, from the tabernacle, the children of Israel would go onward in all their journeys. If we're going to be taking these journeys, if we're going to be making these transformations, if we're going to be making the transitions, it does not need to be on the basis of some intellectual concept we came up with. We need to be better at this. What we need to be is following the King. You know, Yeshua, amazing, Paul said things about you believe in Him, believe on Him. Yeshua never said that. He never says, He says, follow me. He always has a journey in mind for you. He always has a transition. He always has a transformation in mind. So He looks at you, He looks into your soul, and He says, follow me. Come on, we're going somewhere together. And I think to encourage you, if that helps you any, to know you're not expected to do this stuff alone. Because you're expected to become a masterpiece. But you can't do that alone. It's the hand of the master. Touch the master's hand and look. Okay. Now, we're entering what I call pilgrimage mode. If we're going to be making these transitions and going toward masterpiece phase, if that is what He's calling us to do, then we head to enter what's called pilgrimage mode. Now, I want to read something to you. If I can find my Bible. Here we go. If you have yours with you, or on a computer, or phone, or whatever, it's Psalm 84. Now, at the beginning, I don't know if you have this in yours, but this is in the actual Hebrew text. And the Hebrew text says, to the chief musician, a psalm of the sons of Korah. Now, actually, I see this wrong one wrong. It says, to the chief musician, set on this is New King James, to set to a Philistine lute, or possibly a Gittite tune. In Hebrew, it just says, gat. G-A-T-H, you'll want to read it in English. It's on an instrument of gat. Now, if you remember, Gethsemane? Gath means a bath or Gethsemane is an old press, or a press that has this. And what a song of gat to Hebrew means, this is a song that you would sing when you were in the vineyard, working, or when you were in the olive press area, working, preparing the olive oil. Well, this is a working man's song. This is an ordinary man's song. And as you're pressing the grapes, as you're pressing the wine, this is a song that is designed to awaken you to more than just the mundane ordinary affairs of life, to have your vision for something beyond where you are. So this is a song of Gat, or an instrument of Gat. And if you get that, now who wrote the song? The song is written by the sons of Korah. This is not a David song. This is a song written by the descendants of the man Korah. If you know anything about Korah, if you know anything about the Torah, then you know that Korah is the ultimate bad boy of Torah. It doesn't get any worse than Korah. And if to be affiliated with him would be like being Benedict Arnold's son. You know, the worst of the culture that you know, this was the guy. He was the ultimate rebellion that everybody shies away from because of who he was. And when he died, if you all know this story from Numbers, in Numbers, the earth opened up and swallowed Korah and all of his family. So how are his descendants? At least you didn't read the rest of the book of Numbers, because in the rest of the book of Numbers, it says, nevertheless, some of the sons of Korah lived. Now, when your whole family has been swallowed up in the earth, and some of you have nevertheless lived, and brought out children and brought forth a lineage that now honors the Holy One, it is now one of the primary singing praisers in the temple of the days of Solomon. When now you see this developing and take place, these people have got a song to sing. These people have got a story to tell. And while I don't have time to relate it today, I do this teaching called Strumming. Gosh, my mind just went blank. Killing Me Softly with a Song. And it's about the sons of Korah, Psalms 42 through 49. And they are also not David's psalms. These are the sons of Korah. And it is a symphony of their story of how they have overcome and how their lineage has overcome and how they have come to the place of trusting God no matter what. So I won't go, but I will tell you that this is entering this mode. To enter this mode, let's read what they have to say. These people who have this song, who have a story to tell. It says, how lovely, how lovely is your tabernacle, O Lord of hosts, Yahweh Zevot. My soul, my will, my mind, and emotions longs, even faints, for the courts of the Holy One, of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where they may lay her young, even in your altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. Now, I want you to think it just for a second with me. Fast forward through the Bible to the post-resurrection appearance of Yeshua to all the disciples, but one of them was Thomas. And Thomas has got this, he's hiding behind mother's leg. I won't believe, no, and I won't believe, I won't trust you, I won't trust you, I won't trust you. And then he shows him the hands, and he shows him the feet, and he shows him the side, and he falls down and he uses these very words. He got a pilgrimage. He got a pilgrimage mode. He got into pilgrimage mode at that particular stage. And this is what happened. He goes on from that. Just fast forward back, or rewind. Blessed are those who dwell in your house. They will still be praising you. Selah. Blessed is the man whose strength is in you, whose heart is set on pilgrimage. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of the song. It's a wonderful song, and it is a song of love by the sons of Korah. But I want you to stop with this heart set on pilgrimage. Because I want to stir your heart. And the reason I'm here is to make you hungry for pilgrimage. To go beyond the status quo. To get out of the comfort zone. To get out of the normative things of how your faith and your walk and your religion is. And how to get out of your stronghold, get out of your refuge, and get on the road to pilgrimage. To get in that process, to get into pilgrimage mode. Now let's talk about what pilgrimage mode is not. It is not ivory tower, seat of the scornful mode. This is perhaps the hardest lesson for most people to learn. We do not belong in an ivory tower. And we most definitely do not belong in the seat of the scornful. If we are critical and judgmental of other people, we have just silenced the love story. There is no exceptions. No, there are no exceptions. There is no situation where we now have the right to condemn and criticize any other human being if we're in the kingdom and we're going to bring forth the kingdom's message. Now, this is a shock, and I knew that. So I started with this one. Because most people love the idea of judging other people. They get awful. It's exciting. It's thrilling to be able to say, you're wrong. You're evil. You're horrendous. You have, and to go through this process of judging. Now, if we're going to take this road to pilgrimage, we have to lay behind our sense of judgment. Because you see, judgment does not triumph over mercy.
That's right.
Mercy triumphs over judgment. I hear people all the time, when they get to this issue, and Yeshua's in the Sermon on the Mount, and he has poured out his heart. He's poured out the message of his kingdom to people. And he gets to 7:1. He gets to 7:1, and his word is, judge not. That you be not judged. For what judgment you judge, you be judged according to the same measure. And people make all sorts of excuses and all sorts of exceptions and say, he didn't mean what he said. Can I tell you this? He meant exactly what he said. He means it today. He says, if you want to have an impact in your world, then get over the harsh tongue.
That's right.
Get over the critical spirit. Get over the sense that you are smarter, better, wiser, more spiritual than anybody else in the world, and understand that if you're going to have impact, you're going to have to get my eyes for them. And you're going to have to get my heart for them and my love for them. So step one is, it is not the ivory tower. It is not the seat of the scornful mode. Now, can I tell you a little story? Hey, we're just here. I don't know how far we'll get. But one of the things he spoke to me one time was an allegory. I like to write, as you well know. Most of you know me. And so he speaks to me in terms that I might write down. And this allegory was the allegory that basically I was walking on this, in this vision, I was walking on the Broadway. Okay? And on the Broadway was every form of entertainment. It was like a midway at a fair, or at a circuit. It's just all sorts of stuff. And everywhere you could go wrong. And millions of people were on this Broadway. And as I was walking, a dove flew over my head. And the shadow of the dove cast down on me. And immediately it was like I had been asleep and sleepwalking. And suddenly I was awake and alive, and what am I doing here? What am I on this? It was the Boulevard of 1,000 Dreams was the name of this whole thing. Why am I on the Boulevard of 1,000 Dreams? Man's dreams here. And suddenly it's like, no, I've got a higher calling. I've got a relationship with the creator of the universe, and I've got a mission and a purpose. What am I doing like everybody else, going the same pathway, wanting the same junk, wanting to buy and be liked by people, and going into the sports world and going into the sports shopping world and the economic world, the finance world, and going into the job. I don't want all this stuff. He said, that's what the people of the world want. You have a higher calling. And so, the long and short of the deal is that it happened to a few people. We find a narrow road that leads off the Boulevard of 1,000 Dreams. It's hidden, kind of hidden, grown up, overgrown, hasn't been used very much. But if you know where to look, if you keep looking and you're guided by the shadow, it takes you right to the entry point, and you push away a few leaves, and well, there it is. It's really a path. And this path leads away from the Boulevard of 1,000 Dreams, going up to the great hill, the great mountain of God. But on the way, you come to the village of Nevertheless. The first place you come to is the village of Nevertheless. So it's an allegory story. You get to the village of Nevertheless, and if you go through, it's nevertheless not your will, but mine be done. And so because we are who we are, and people go before us are who they are, they built a bypass around the city of Nevertheless. It's a 4-lane divided highway that goes around the village of Nevertheless, so you don't have to go through that town. And so the bypass goes around this mountain to the place of ivory towers. And from the place of ivory towers, you can look down where you have come from and see the people on the boulevard of 1,000 Dreams. And you can look from there, your vantage point, your higher point, and you can look down and say, those stupid people. Those fools, they don't understand how much better life is up here in the village of Ivory Towers. But the problem with the bypass is it's not finished. It doesn't go anywhere. And you get to the end of the road and it just has a big blockade there. Because you see, it's all just a mirage. There is no way around the village of Nevertheless. There is no alternative route. The village of Nevertheless is what we must pass through to get to the hill of the great king and the city of the great king in that hill. And that village of Nevertheless says, nevertheless, not my will be done. Now, if you think of what that means, it's not just a theological statement. Nevertheless, not your will, not my will, but yours be done. Because most of you do the other way. Not my will, but yours be done says no matter what it costs, no matter what it means, no matter whether I think it's fair or not. So this issue of avoiding this ivory tower, see the scornful mode, if we're ready to make pilgrimage, it's going to be a matter of giving up some of those rights to judge other people and sense how bad they are. Second thing is, it's not the inertia comfort zone mode. I don't know why it has to be this way. I do know why. But we cannot stay in a comfort zone. So whatever your comfort zone is, that's what's going to have to go. Sorry. I mean, as a human being who has comfort zone issues myself, and I do this, write this stuff for my kids, you know, and they got comfort zones too, and I feel for my kids. And he feels for his kids. The Holy One does. He says, but comfort zones are not healthy. That's where you stagnate. That's where you get diseases. That's where things attack you. You're a sitting duck target. So you've got to keep moving. So it's not that. It's also not tradition mode. All right, now in the Hebrew roots movements, in the Torah movements, in all these different movements, one of the problems we run into is tradition. Tradition is not evil in itself. Unfortunately, tradition becomes a part of a status quo. And it also becomes part of an ivory tower. Because if other people don't follow the traditions you follow, then you judge them from up above in the village of the ivory towers. You don't, but other people in the world might. Those other people that we look at from the village of Nevertheless. We look down and say, they do that. They do that. We don't do it. And the other problem is that then we begin to substitute our traditions for the actual words, instructions, and presence of God. And that is not limited to the Hebrew roots movement. Any church you ever went to that said, this is the way we do it, has got the same issue. It's a common institutional bias that we, whether you want to call it a tradition, or whether you think of it as a tradition, or whether it just is one, these things can become a place of stagnation and also a place of judgment. So to understand, we're not trying, the journey is not to go to Judaism. Neither is the journey to go to Christianity as an institution. The words get thrown around like they mean something, but they're not in the Bible, neither one of them. You know there's no Judaism in the Bible? And you know there's no Christianity in the Bible? Read it. But don't trust my word for it. Do a word search. Look for Christianity in the Bible. Look for Judaism in the Bible. You never, nowhere, not a single, not a one time will you find either one of those. They are non-biblical concepts. But the walk with Messiah is very, very real. And he says, you don't get institutionalized. Don't let them institutionalize you. That's a good thing if you've been through any kind of family that has mental health issues. Don't want to be institutionalized. Well, it's kind of the same thing. You can be a part of it and fellowship with people and love people and care for people, but don't let them institutionalize you and ground you in their traditions as opposed to walking with the Messiah. He says, my masterpieces are not masterpieces of tradition. They're masterpieces of creativity and innovation. The masterpieces that have heaven's touch upon their lives. So, it is not traditions, and no one's here. Put that down this again. I'm playing my usual game. Anybody seen where I put the clicker?
Probably on the
Oh.
stand.
Right where you left it.
Right where I left it. It's in the ivory tower. And I don't even need it yet, but the next thing is, it is not lawless when in Rome mode. Now here's the interesting thing. As I begin to really focus on all four revelation streams of what we know as the Bible. That's the Torah. That is the writing, the Psalms and the writings. That is the prophets. And it is the Brit Hadashah, or New Testament, or whatever you tend to call it. These four streams. Go back to the Garden of Eden. Go back to the four revelation streams that are referenced, that come forth, the rivers that come forth out of the Garden of Eden. We have these parallels now with these four different streams of revelation that come through the written word, and each one has its own purpose, its own issues here. But what we are not is to ever declare ourselves lawless from any of those four streams. We are not separate. We don't pick one. The New Testament. We pick the New Testament. Well, the problem with that is it means you're lawless with regard to the other three revelation streams. Or we just pick the Torah. And people do that. And some people just turn away from Yeshua and turn away from Messiah and say, well, he can't be what he says he is because so-and-so and so. So no, you're lawless. That's the 3/4 of the revelation stream. Now, this is a challenge to us. We're going to get out of our comfort zone. We're going to move forward with the direction of the journey he wants us to take, is to accept the revelation of all four, reconcile them in our heart and in our spirit, and bring them to their fullness of their fruition. This is the challenge that we have. And we do not take on the attributes. We're not chameleons that take on the attributes of whatever culture we're in, whatever group of people we're hanging around. We don't start talking like they talk. We don't start doing what they do. We don't start reacting like they react. This is the key factor. We are a special forces unit. Well trained by the four revelation streams as to how to keep our mind and our spirit in tune with the creator of the universe, not with the culture around us. So this is the other challenge. We don't do the win in the Rome mode. Pilgrimage mode is moving forward as special agents, special representatives, special officers of the kingdom of heaven. We're also not in moated castle refuge mode. Again, I've sort of hit this before. I won't go into it right now. There is no, you know, I get sort of on these stories. I don't know how long I can go with this process. But, okay, so here's Yeshua. Yeshua has gone by, he's been there, he's been baptized by John in the river. And he comes back, and John says to his disciples who were there in the water with him, he says, behold, say Elohim, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world. And they look at him and say, oh, yeah, man, wow. Cool. Okay, John, what are we doing next? And so the next day, 24 hours passes. This is John's Gospel, in case you don't know, John chapter 1. John's Gospel, the second day, the next day, Yeshua comes back again. They were hiding behind Mama's leg. They didn't get it, Elizabeth, you know. and so he comes back again the next day. And it says the next day he comes back, and John stops what he's doing. It's like Groundhog Day, you know. He looks at him and says, behold, the Lamb of God. Say Elohim, the Lamb of God. And the others say, oh, that's great. Look at that. Cool. And they go back to doing what they're doing. And two of the group say, well, wait, he's the Lamb of God. Who, maybe we're supposed to do something about that? And so out of the whole group, however many John had there with him in the group, two of them kind of sneak away sheepishly. And they kind of walk in. Yeshua's, I picture him walking majestically. They just, he's walking away from the water, walking by, and here are these two guys who don't really know why or what. They're kind of sneaking away and kind of following. Where's he going to go? What's he going to do? You know, and should we do this? Is this fair? Is this kosher? Can we do this? And they go, they start walking behind him, and he turns around and looks at them, busted, man. man. You're busted. He doesn't say you're busted. He says to them, the two that came out after, he says, what do you want? Oh, he's asking you the same question. What is it you want out of this? Why you want to follow me? What do you want? What is this for you? And, you know, as good, whatever we are,
Yeah.
we stutter and bumble and fumble and try to say something intelligent. And so they don't answer the question because they don't have a clue what to answer. None of us do. All we know is he's beautiful and glorious. He's the Lamb of God. So you follow him because he's just that good. That's what you do. So he says, what do you want? And they stutter and they stammer for a while. I'm picturing this whole process in my head. And they say, where do you stay? And he smiles and says, come and see. Well, the truth of the matter is, you know what he's going to say later. He says, the Son of Man doesn't have a place to lay his head. You know, I'm not into shelters. I'm not into refuges. I'm not into hiding places. I'm not into the places of comfort zones. The Son of Man's out there. So when you follow me and where you ask me where I stay among the people. I stay where I'm needed. I stay where it is necessary. I stay. I stay and I don't stay. I stay and I move on. And so you understand, I won't even get into retail with you, but I want you to come and see, and to come and see is not come to my house. Come and see how I live life, how I deal with the reality, how I deal with people, how I touch people's lives. And so this is that issue of castle refuge mode, moated castle refuge mode. If you're expecting, you know, this is why, you know, the prosperity message of all that, have a beautiful home and have all this kind of stuff. Maybe so, good for you if you can have that. But realistically speaking, most of what Yeshua is going to do is have you out somewhere, doing something somewhere. And not have a place to lay your head. I don't mean you won't have a place to sleep. I mean, this will never be, one place will be where I'm going to, this is my forever home, right? We're looking for our forever home. He said, well, you only have one. And it ain't here. And it's also not pampered, complaining tourist mode. Okay. Now, I said there's certain things we have to leave behind on this pilgrimage mode, and one of those is our right to complain. To be dissatisfied, to be unhappy, to be frustrated, to be angry, to be hurt, to be offended. He said, I can't let go of that. He said, then you can't come where I stay. I can love you, and we're going to go to heaven and all that, but if you want to be with me where I stay in this world, then these things are in the way. And he says, you know, if you don't remember this whole issue of coming out of Egypt, my covenant people, go to Sinai. Oh, how glorious. Bridegroom meets the bride. They wed. They become close. They build their first house together, the tabernacle. Oh, it's love. There's peace in the valley. There's no anger, no upset, no nothing. It's glorious. It's so wonderful. Every day manna from heaven falls, and every day OSHA gets a new revelation to download to them, and they're eating at their tables. Song of Solomon, chapter 2, 3, and 4. It's just glorious stuff happening. And then he says, okay, now the pillar's about to move. We're going to leave Sinai, and they go, what, 3 days' journey into the desert. Waving the banners, man. We're waving the banners and the flags. We're marching as a glorious people of God 3 days. And they start moaning and groaning and complaining. He says, don't you remember this? This is sort of your... I wrote this as a testimony to you to understand this is not what we're going to do. This is not the way this works. And so all the moaning, all the groaning, all the complaining, all the right to complain. And if they had a right, if anyone had a right to complain, these folks did. It was hot. They didn't leave until it already started getting hot. You didn't leave in the winter. You left in the springtime when it's really beginning to get really hot over there. And you're in a very low place. It means it's very hot. It's not like Colorado hot. It ain't even like Texas hot. It's probably not like India hot. I mean, it is hot. You know, and there is no McDonald's, no Starbucks,
Man, there's no, what is that little, those convenience store that we all have? That everybody none of that stuff. There's no Frosties, no, and you just keep, wherever the cloud goes, you go. It's hot, and your children are screaming and crying. Children do that. And your feet are screaming and crying, and the dust is in your face, the sand's in your face, and the person in front of you smells bad. That's why this is all theoretical in other people's lives. It's never involving us. And they had a reason to complain. We always, if you want to find one, believe it or not, you will always find a reason to complain. And the world tells you you've got a right to complain. But every word of complaint coming out of your mouth, every single word of complaint coming out of your mouth is the antithesis of the praise of God. Because when you complain about anything, when we complain about any little thing in life, what we're saying is, God, this isn't fair. You haven't treated me right. Now, we may blame it on somebody else. Job. It's all Job's fault. But realistically speaking, God could have fixed this. And really, it's his fault in the great scheme. Now, when you awaken to this realization, if we're going to have the level of impact and relevance to the world that he's called us to have in the season of transitions and transformations, when the world needs us most desperately than they ever have, this is critical and it has to go. The moaning, the groaning, the complaining, the sense this is not fair, I don't deserve this, I deserve better than this. You really want to go there?
No.
I don't think you do. No. Anyway, let's move on. So it's not many of those things. This is not, what does it consist of? A vision for something better, higher, and more grand. Now, you can't find this on your own unless you're some sort of a drug-taking idealist. If you take enough drugs, you might be able to picture Camelot somewhere. He says, that's not I want you to be able to see because you trust me. And you understand that I'm working all things together for good. And therefore, you see a situation and you don't just look at it and say, this is the bad situation. You see 10 years beyond it. And you see the good that's going to come forth from it. And you have kingdom of heaven eyes to see that. Now, when you have vision, so to make this pilgrimage is learning to develop eyesight. To develop kingdom eyesight where we can see a vision for something better. It's like, if you like to pray for the sick or have been around people who pray for the sick, and I love to pray for the sick. But here's the deal. If I see a sick person, I might as well not pray. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Mason. We made up a new name. Okay. Mason. I used to, in the fellowship we go to, there's nobody named Joe, so I always use Joe, but I hate to do that here because we actually really have a Joe. So Mason is sick. I mean, Mason's got the big C. He's got hepatitis. Whatever he's got, whatever the people you know have got, he's got. But if I see Mason as a guy who has got cancer or hepatitis or a traumatic spiritual injury, then I'm helpless. What do I need to see instead? I need to see a healed Mason. So what I'm speaking is speaking to something I can see. I can picture in my mind's eye him getting up off. You should have all these conversations. He never prayed for the sick once. I know it's freaky out because we're told in James to pray for the sick because he knows our weakness. Yeshua never prayed for a single sick person. Shocking. I don't trust me. You can look it up yourself, but trust me, I have dug through this deeply to figure out how to pray for people. And I realized he never once prayed for anybody. What he did was see them whole and speak to that wholeness. Rise up. Take up your bed and walk. Because he could see it. He could sense the goodness of God working in this person's life. Be whole. Be made whole. He never said, Father, would you heal this person? No, this person deserves a healing. He's hurting really bad. And he could see that part, but he saw beyond that to the vision for the person's healing. Now you've got a person who's in addiction to meth. The bad one. There's a whole bunch of bad ones. They just don't seem to want to. In the world, we say they can't recover.
Then you put them through 5 rehabs, and they'll always come back and steal mommy's TV and buy more meth. Okay, that's the world mindset, and it's been proven out 100 times because all we ever see is a meth head. He says, now, do you have a vision for seeing this person out of the lifestyle there? Because, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So if we have faith, then we see what's not seen. Now, this changes the whole vision of what praying and blessing people in faith and ministering them in faith really involves. Is it 3 o'clock already? Okay, all right. It's 3 o'clock. What time does your clock say, really? Holy moly. Okay. Let's talk a little while. Let's talk a little while. We'll keep going. It is also packing and planning for departure. Do you have a vision of yourself going somewhere with the King? I mean, this is the biggest challenge in my life, is to keep a picture of me 6 months from now. What would I want to be doing in the kingdom in 6 months? What would I want to be broken free? Bondage is broken off of me. Fears, questions, insecurities that are in me. What would I like to see me not have in 6 months? And for you, this is to have a vision for where you are coming, where you're going with the Holy One. Then you can do it for other people. And you sit there and say, oh, I see you where you are. But 6 months from now, 6 months from now, you're going to be free of all that fear of man. You're going to be free of all that worry about whether the finances are going to be there or not. You see, this is the way. See, the vision for where He wants to take you, to have that vision. Packing and planning for departure. Departure from the comfort zone, sandals on the sand. Now, here's the other thing about these journey mode, is that it is not a new concept for you to think about and meditate on. It's not a new doctrine for you to preach. This is real. There's a famous Jewish book about the whole high holiday season in the fall. And it's called This Is Real, and You Are Totally Unprepared. But what the Holy One is calling us to is not a belief system. He's calling us to real life and real impact. And so when Yeshua says to follow me, He means follow me into stuff. Follow me into places. Follow me into tragedies and triumphs, and trials, and all sorts of areas. Follow me in this situation and have a significant impact. Now, sandals on the sand. So are we willing to get our sandals on the sand? I would say rubber on the road, but it just works better when you're thinking about this kind of vision. Do that. E, challenges encountered. You're going to find deserts and predators and way stations. A student is not greater than his master. Where did the Holy Spirit lead Yeshua immediately?
Wilderness.
Into the desert, to be tested. To be tested. So, if we're going to take this journey, if we're going to go pilgrimaging, understand the first leg of the journey is going to be through the desert. The wilderness. This is not to hurt us, it's not to kill us. This is to get rid of certain things like complaining and judging and self-righteousness and all those things, but He is going to take us through that journey, so we're going to find it. And then we're going to find predators. Some of them will be human, some of them will be animal, some of them will be weather-related, some will be spiritual, dark forces like Yeshua had to deal with out there. We're going to find those things, and we'll be places. But the good news is, it's kind of like He has designed a course for you. It's like if you had people have a marathon, and there are certain stations along the way, and those stations there's water, maybe even a snack or two for the runners. It's all prepared in advance. This is the way your journey is going to be. Way stations prepared along the way. Provisions for you. You see, He's not trying to hurt you. He's trying to get you through the desert, trying to get you into the next phase of your life. So that will happen to you. That's what pilgrimage consists of. And you're going to have persons and things and ideas that are lost along the way. You have opinions and belief systems that are lost along the way. Now, part of the story...
I can use this one or I can talk. Is this one on?
Yep, I just got to turn it.
One.
It's back. Hey, Bert.
It's Bert.
You didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it's Bert.
Let's see where I gotta go. All right. Now, the thing about.
Is it not working?
No.
Come back up.
Technical difficulty.
This is not actually happening.
The man behind this curtain.
We needed
All right, can you hear me now?
we needed a break anyway.
Please listen just a little bit.
Everybody can hear me better? Better like that? That good? All right. All right. Part of the story of the Torah that we are familiar with is the fact that this place called Kadesh Barnea took place, and of the 680,000 people, men only, that came out of Egypt, it narrowed down to the grand number after the spies report. It narrowed down to the grand number of 2. 680,000 men, plus women and children, down to 2. This is why they call it a narrow road. The few that there are that find it. And we sit there and say, how did those 600 and some odd, 50,000 I think it was, of men and all their families, how did they go the other route? How did they not see this? How did they not get to where they're supposed to be? And the Holy One says, that's about the number that we usually see. That's about the number that we can usually count on, and I do it for 2. I do everything I do for the 1, for that matter. But when there's 2, we got Joshua and Caleb. I got 2 out of 650,000. Hallelujah, I got 2. Usually 1's the best I can hope for. I got 2 out of this. And realistically speaking, we raised up a bunch of folks in the wilderness. But the next generation coming, the daughters of Zelophehad, 5 daughters. I had 5 daughters of Zelophehad, and he didn't make it, but his daughters did. And Aaron didn't make it, but Eleazar and Itamar made it. And so we see, he said, I understand there's going to be a lot of attrition along the way. Now, I have friends, and I have felt it myself. When you lose someone who was journeying with you, came out of a dark place with you, or walked through a church with you, or a synagogue with you, or a group with you, walked through a movement with you, and then suddenly they turn and go the other route. Maybe they're in your own family. You know, and you say, how did I lose that one? How did that? And it's like you have this sense of loss and bereavement. And think about Yeshua, who had the multitudes following him. And then they all turned around and walked away. He says, you guys still here? Hey, I got 12. We only got 2 back at the time of the wilderness. I got 12. This is good. This is that idea. We understand if we're going to make this road, we're going to lose some people along the road, along the way. Can I scoot this way a little bit? Yeah, good. I got enough cord. We're going to lose some folks along the way. And then we're going to also lose some opinions that we had along the way. I know this is always a shock, because part of the things that we give up in our transformation, in our journey mode, is the right to have political opinions, ideological opinions, philosophical opinions, doctrinal opinions. It's not that we can't have them. It's just there's no place in us to talk about it. There's just no reason for it. That is not why we're here. It is antithesis to our mission, because it distracts people from what we're really here to talk about. So when we realize that, it's like, oh, shock to us. But it's necessary. Things have to go along the way. And then there's the arrival, the settling in, and more relevance and higher levels of fruit. Now, when you realize that there is a season of, I call it divine romance. Some people like the term, some people don't like the term. But what it is I have just become Elizabeth looking up at John Michael, but he's God, and I'm a child. And this is about him and I, and oh, how wonderful this is. I delight to sit in this shape, this song and song. I love being him, and it's about me, and it's about him, and we'll have this wonderful relationship together. And then he says, but what about the other people? Oh, I don't have time for them right now. I want to love you. I want you to love me. I want us to be together. I want to spend time with you in worship. I just want to bow before you. And he says, that's wonderful. I love that. But what about the other people? And suddenly it starts to hit you that this is not about you and him.
Right.
This is about a grand plan to redeem mankind and creation that he has had in mind from the beginning. And yes, he loves you. He sees you as unique and special. And yes, he has a desire to have great intimate fellowship with you. But that is not the end game. The end game is to engage you on his chessboard. To put you in play. To have you have this relevance, this impact. So, higher levels of fruit. Yeshua said that I would abide in you, and you in me, and that you would have much fruit. And that your fruit would remain. Wouldn't fall by the wayside, wouldn't collapse not reach maturity. Your fruit would reach its level of full fruitfulness. Now this is the whole purpose of him abiding in us. It's not so we can have some ooey-gooey feelings, although I love that when it happens. That is not the end game. The end game is that we would bear much fruit. Much fruit. Not a little bit of fruit. Not occasional fruit. Not sour fruit. You ever go to a tree and pick it too soon? Yum! Ooh! That's what a lot of our fruit is, It's got its bitter taste to it because it ain't ripe yet. It ain't mature yet. It's got all that complaining stuff going on. Now, he says, I intend to take you to places of higher levels of fruitfulness. Can you handle that? Can you handle? Because what happens when you have higher levels of fruit? More people come. They take your fruit. But that's how you feed them. And yeah, birds will come along and they'll try to peck on the fruit. And other critters will try to steal the fruit. But here's the issue. You keep producing fruit, it remains. The birds can get 2 pieces of fruit. But they can't take it all, and it's coming back again. That's why the river of life, the trees, they keep producing. Season after season after season. You don't run out. You're not in a limited supply of fruit. That's the whole idea. He wants you to have a continually abundant, flowing, increasing level of harvest and fruit coming out of your life. What does fruit look like? Well, you can define it in many, many, many ways. But what it is the fruit always represents the seed. It has the same characteristics of the seed. So what does your fruit look like? It looks like the Word, which is the seed in you. And whose seed is it? It is the Holy One. So what you do is you leave little pockets of where the Holy One has been. And who was that masked man anyway? I didn't get his name, but he left this silver bullet. He left this piece of fruit. He left this sense of the smell, the fragrance of heaven. The sense of kindness, the sense of mercy, the sense of joy, the sense of peace, the sense of shalom in this place. Whoever that was left it here, and I can still smell the fragrance of how beautiful it was. And I can only say, I don't know who that was, but I know who they must have served, who they must have been with, where this must have come from. This is the level of pilgrimage mode going that direction. And I don't know how, we probably should go till about 3:30 maybe, and then stop. 4 or 4, gotcha. Now,
4?
I know you got to be out here at a certain time, so I don't want to overtalk you. But this is in the Hebrew calendar. The Holy One has set up the year in such a way that we all take a journey every year. The English calendar doesn't do this very well. The American calendar that actually came from Julius Caesar and then through the Emperor, what's the name of the Pope, Gregorian calendar. That doesn't handle us very well, but the idea of the Hebrew seasons in the year seed time and harvest, summer and winter, until it does not. This is going to keep going. And he's got this season. He's on it every year as a journey that he takes us on. Well, right now, we're in a transition phase. We're going from the month of Iyar, the second month of the biblical year, started with the Passover month, the second month of the year, and then we're going into the third month of the year. And the third month of the year, for all those of you know, is going to be when we're going to have Shavuot, the Feast of Pentecost. So we're going. But what is Iyar? Is the moon, a month in Hebrew is just moon. The cycle of the moon, the different phases of the moon for a whole month. For a whole month, we have the month of budding. Plants budding. Trees, fruit trees budding. It's the month of budding. Now, this should be recurring in your life. Your life should be setting buds. Now, the thing about buds is, buds are just fruit that hasn't reached its fullness yet, hasn't reached any level of fruitfulness. It's just, but if you don't have the bud, you don't have the fruit. So if you don't set buds, you will not set fruit. So this is that season of developing, showing the life force, what life force is in you, what seed is operative in you. And therefore it goes into every relationship you got, every conversation you have, every interaction with other human beings you have, even with your dogs that you have, whatever interactions that you have begin to exhibit the character and the attributes of the one whose season you're in, who's your father. On the other side, we're going to go from the moon of budding to the moon of setting fruit. So this is the transition phase we're in. We should already be producing buds. Little evidences that we walk with the great King. Some of it being outward, some of it being conversational, some of it being not being so stressed and angry about everything, so judgmental. But what we should be seeing over the next few weeks in this journey is that it becomes full-blown fruit. That's the time of the season that we're in according to the calendar. In addition, this is the season of Mara. Now, it's said in Torah that they reached Mara, the place of bitter waters, on their journey on the first day of the second month. So, where we have been is probably a place of a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of bitter waters. Now, the thing about the Holy One is, he says, you're going to face bitter waters, but you're not supposed to dwell on them. You're supposed to trust me that I'm going to bring something sweet out of these bitter waters, out of these bitter circumstances, out of these bitter things you had to endure. I'm going to bring something sweet out of it. So this is that season of getting the sweetness. Tree of life, bitter to sweet. Hochu mishpat, it means he's going to begin to teach us to walk in certain ways. This is, in English it might read statutes and ordinances. Just instructions. He's going to give you instructions to help you get over the bitterness. That should be good news to a few of you in the room. That he sees you as healed and whole for all the bitterness that you've had stored up in your life forever and ever over anything. But he has instructions for you to take you to the place of wholeness of that process. Another thing is, the word Iyar, which is the name they give to the second month, Iyar, it would be Aleph, it would be Yod, and Resh. In the Hebrew tongue, Hebrew letters. Some of you know that what that means. You don't have to. Don't worry about that. But it is it's regarded as being a what's an abbreviation? What do they call that one? Acronym. It's an acronym, and the acronym is for Aleph, Ani, I am. Yod, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, I am the Lord. I am Yahweh. Jehovah, I am He. I am He. Rofecha, your healer. Ani Yahweh Rofecha. And over this room right now, the voice of the Holy One of Israel, the Creator of the universe, is saying to you, Ani Yahweh Rofecha, I am your healer. I'm not a healer in theory. I'm a healer in real time. A healer in real time. I see you where you are. I see the needs that you have. I see the wounds that you have and the scars that you have. I see the disabilities you're under and the restrictions you're under. And understand this, if you don't understand anything else about me, I am here to heal you. And I have a strategy and a plan to heal you. And I will bring you forth. Now, we're not just talking about physical healing. We're talking about emotional transference and maturity. We're talking about spiritual restitution, coming back to where you should be, where you were born to be, created to be. I'm the Lord, your healer, to make you whole. Rofecha, your healer, your whole maker, to make you whole. Now, if you see the love of the Creator for you in that, and the sense of confidence that He can take you with all the mess you've had in your life, and all the problems you've had in your life, and all the attitudes you've had in your life, and He said, I can heal you. And I can make you into a whole person that touches your world. Now, I hope that you're sensing the sense of destiny of His call upon your life. Why He says, I can make a masterpiece out of you. Because you already are one, you just don't know it yet. You already have the sparks of holiness in you. You just haven't, no one's blown on them lately. You already have the beauty and the majesty of my characteristics, my attributes on you, because I put them in you. There's just no outlet for them yet, but I'm going to bring that forth. Now, this is now. Where are we going? The season of revelation. We're going to be able to see it and how it works in real time. Now, what's going to happen here is Sinai. The Israelites are going to come to Sinai, and this is the season when the Sinai experience took place. That's what's coming next. Something akin to Sinai, Moriah, you call it mountain, whatever you want to call it. But I'm telling you what's going to happen is He's going to pour out over you and over His people that He is healing His streams of revelation. And you won't have to operate on the basis of the things you think you know or you think you wish you'd learned, things you think you wish you could remember about what the pastor said, the rabbi said, the book said, the course said. You will have a stream of revelation. You know, Isaiah said this way. He says, all my people, in the voice of God speaking through Isaiah, all my people are taught of Yahweh. And they have no need for men to teach them. Now, we're in a phase. We're in a transition phase, and we do have need for men to teach us. But we're going to a place where we will not need men to teach us. That is the transition phase that we're trying to get to, and He's trying to get us to. All right. Manhu. You know, there's no such thing as manna. It's manhu in Hebrew, manhu. And manhu, we translate, what is this? Ma. But actually, in Hebrew, what is the word what?
Ma.
Ma, not man. Man is a unique, and never anywhere else in the entire Bible is the word man used or translated as what? What is ma? So why this N sound at the end of the word? Do you know what N is? What the nun is? And when it comes to the end of the word, it's the nun sofit. It's the last form. And it is the Hebrew word picture for the Messiah. Who is Messiah? What is Messiah? What is, and it says, now I'm going to feed you with messianic hope, with a messianic dream. I'm going to feed you with Messiah Himself. Man, who is He? Who is He? And He's going to stir this heart for us to know Him, passionately know Him the way it is. Man, it's a season of Manhu. When we learn dependence upon Him, we learn to refocus on the Sabbath, getting living water from the rock, the time of latter rains. If we had more time, I would spend lots of time on these little points, but I won't. We're going to, though, the season of engrafting. The season of engrafting, you know, the book of Ruth, which we read at Pentecost, the Feast of Pentecost, Feast of Shavuot. The book of Ruth is about this season. And it's about where we're going, the season we're going to. And the book of Ruth, you know the story. Ruth is a Moabite. Ruth is not a member of the covenant community. She's kind of married into it. But she is not that. She is still a Moabitess, and they're still living in Moab. But over the course of the season, as Naomi decides to go back, suddenly Ruth sees her future in a different way than she ever saw it before. And so Ruth, a Moabite, follows Naomi into Israel, back to the land. The first time she's ever been there, she goes and she is a foreigner and a stranger. And worse than that, if you understand the Moabite scenario, it wasn't pretty. And theologically, there's a lot of boundaries and borders here. She's a Moabitess. Now, you could say she's a female, she's not a male. Lots of theories as to why they accepted the Moabite into the fellowship, but they did. She came and she found Boaz, and she reaped in Boaz's field. She gleaned from Boaz's field. And when she did that, she accepted the Torah, the lifestyle of Yahweh, as her lifestyle. And she became the Isha, the bride of the Hebrew Boaz. And she began to be incorporated into the covenant lifestyle in the covenant. Now, this season we're going to is a season when foreigners are going to be engrafted in great multitudes to the covenant lifestyle of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Yeshua, which is his lifestyle as well. So what we're going to see is there seemed to be a boundary, a border, a label that separated you and other people, but in the season that's coming, Isaiah 56 is going to burst into play. And the foreigners who hold fast to my Sabbath, and the foreigners who cling to my covenant, and who love me, and who love my name, and who follow me, and who serve me, in that, this is Isaiah 56, and the prophetic elements, it says, in that day, I will give them a place and a name greater than sons and daughters. Sons and daughters is pretty good. But what he's saying is, I'm going to engraft people into my covenant life. I'm going to bring them in, and they're going to be placed, and they cannot be disowned. Foreigners who come in are like, when you adopt someone, you cannot disown them. You can disown your flesh and blood, but you cannot disown someone you've adopted. And so here he says, I'm going to bring them in, and they will never, never be disconnected from me. There will be no cutoff. There will be no way out. This is now going to be. And this is a season of the great end game of God. Why do you think he dispersed Israel through the nations? I ever think about why he dispersed Israel? I mean, there was a whole years the church taught it was to punish them. The wandering Jews, facing this terrible punishment because they have committed this sin, which he blinded them as to. Do you get that? They committed this horrible sin of not recognizing the Messiah, but he blinded them to who Messiah was on purpose. So, how could he do this in judgment if he's the reason they couldn't see? So maybe it's not about a judgment. And maybe it's about a plan of planting and a plan of harvest. And so he sows the seed of Abraham into every nation, every corner of the world. The thing about God, when he sows seed, he sees a harvest. And so it's not just as he sowed the seed out there, he's going to bring it back. He's going to mature it. He's going to call it forth. And he's going to call forth the foreigners with them. And you start reading the prophetic book of Isaiah. You read the 7 half-truth of consolation, which come out in the summertime season that we read. And it's the end-time plan, end game of God laid out for you in word after word after word of prophecy after prophecy. This is the plan. He says, I'm sending them out, and this is called the diaspora. It's a sowing of seed. And I will harvest them, and they will come back, and the Gentiles will bring them with them. And they will come back to my holy mountain. And on my holy mountain, they will worship me. And they will then begin to set up thy kingdom here upon the earth. This is his end game. So this is a season of engrafting. Can you have a vision for a vast movement of Gentile peoples? Not into Judaism. No one's going to Judaism. They're going to the way of Yahweh. They're going to the way in which Yeshua walked and taught. The way going into that process. It's between the pillars of these institutions into real-time living, daily, breathing, walking, real stuff. Sandal on the sand. Overcoming, transforming, transcending that we go through. This is the season that's coming. Now, this is also the season coming up upon us. Where we're coming now into is the season of Mordecai's favor. In the second month of the year, Mordecai was given the pen, the scribing instrument, the stylus, by Ahasuerus. And he gave him the stylus, and he said, write a decree. Write a decree for the Hebrew peoples. Write a decree for the covenant peoples of God. And in the second month, he wrote the decree, and he sent it out throughout all the kingdom, all the 127 satraps of the kingdom of Persia. And immediately what happens is something supernatural began to happen. And it says that Mordecai found favor. All over the satraps, all over the provinces of Persia, a guy they'd never met, suddenly, who's this Mordecai? I want to know this Mordecai. And Mordecai began to dress him in these blue royal robes. And he would go forth and he would give wisdom to where. And this was the season of Mordecai's ascendancy and favor. As you look at that, see 8, 9, and following, you'll see what I'm talking about here. Now, this is the season for the people in covenant with God, natural and engrafted, to find favor in the eyes of the world. Find favor in the eyes of... And the Persian people were not covenant people. It's like Americans. Coloradans and Texans and stuff like that. You know, and it's people from India. It's people from Pakistan. And it's people from Africa. And it's people from all over, from all continents, all nations of the world. Suddenly, why do they suddenly want to listen to you? Why do they suddenly want to hear what the people of the kingdom are saying? Because they've got a message and a love story. Now, this is the season that we are about to come into. I am thrilled about the season. There's more. I guess we should finish it. The signs in the heavens in this season, the season we've just come forth, there were two signs in the heavens that you may not have seen. If you stayed up late at night, you might have seen them. The first sign was called the Lyrids, and there is what it is a set of falling stars, meteors, asteroids, coming forth from the constellation that is known as Lyra. What is Lyra? What is Lyre? It's the song. It's the instrument of song. Joe, understand that this is a season whenever power, light, is coming out of the instruments. Coming out of the voices. Coming out of those who are singing the praises of Yah. And light is going to come out of you. This is the season we should be in now. Powerful things. New songs. New revelations. New worship coming out in such a way that attracts the attention of the world. That we don't hear that in the great groups of the world. This is, and we will. The songs of the kingdom will become again the primary music and listening of the world. But not because we're trying to make money in the record industry. Because we got a story to tell. Because we got a song to sing. We got a love song that will blow the ages away. And this begins to come out in fresh, new words and ways. And anyone else in here who plays instruments, anyone here who has any touch or sings or desires to do so, or even make a joyful noise unto the Lord, in this season, please understand, He is releasing power out of the lyre. Not the L-I-E-R. Out of the L-Y-R-E, out of the lyre. And He's releasing that power. And the second sign in the heavens in this season is the aquarids, and that comes out of the water carrier, Aquarius. And out of that constellation comes the second batch of meteors, falling stars. And what does that mean? What is pouring forth? Water, the waters of heaven. What is the water? The water is the waters of life. The river of life is coming out. He's offering the river of life freely to anyone who will receive it in this season. There will be another set of stars in heaven in the season to come. And that's the brilliance of these two planets, Venus and Saturn. Now, Venus, it isn't called Venus in Hebrew. The Hebrew people don't call it Venus. That's obviously a Greek god, Roman god, or whatever it is, goddess. And I forgot the name of it. It just flew out of my head. I had it in all. But it means increasing brightness. The sign in the heaven is increasing brightness. Now, hello, increasing brightness. More and more brightness from you. More and more brightness coming out of you. Now, the second one is interesting. Again, they don't call it Saturn in Hebrew. The Hebrew people don't call it Saturn. They call it Shittai. Sabbaths. They call it of the Sabbath. They call it that pertaining to the rest of God and the blessing of God and the holiness of God, which causes mankind to reach a place of blessed rest and peace. Shabbatai. Saturn is not Saturn in the Hebrew mindset. It is the issue of us beginning to learn to rest in God. Not just take a day off work. I mean, that's the littlest part of what this day of Sabbath is. It's real, but it's the littlest part of what this is. He said He blessed the seventh day, and He made it holy. That means there is a blessing forever. There is just, you walk into it, and you sense, you feel the blessing upon you. And then you enter in this realm of holiness, and then you get to function in this realm of holiness. We're training it with the Sabbath. Every Sabbath we're trained to learn how to operate in holiness. How to operate in blessing. Not feel slighted or in competition with other people, other ministries, other theologies. We're not in competition. We're ever increasing brightness in the ways of the Holy One. And we are here to rest in Him and receive the blessing and then impart it back away. And to receive the holiness and then to release it. There's a thing called the contagion of holiness. If you touch the altar though you be unclean, though you be in the midst of sin, if you go to the altar, beat the prosecutor to the altar, and you grab hold of the horns of the altar, you can never be touched, because the holiness of the altar communicates itself to you. And when you touch the altar, the holy, and this is why the woman with the issue of blood, the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years, comes and she says, if I could just touch the tzitzis, the tassels on the corners of edge of his garments, if I could just hold on to that. And he touches her, and you say, this is horrible, because theoretically we see in our brains, she is going to contaminate Yeshua with uncleanness. He says, you don't understand. The contagion of holiness goes the other way. It's the other way around. She put her hands on the horns of the altar, and the altar's holiness communicated itself to her. And so that's what the fashion was. It was the release of the holiness of God through those tzitzit into that woman that made her whole. He felt it go out of her. He said, what happened? He looks around because he knew what happened. You know, he really knew what happened. But he wanted her to say what happened. And he wanted his disciples to see what happened. And he wanted us to know what happened. And this is that key, that in this season, because we are becoming more and more, be holy as I'm holy is the central theme of Torah. I am your God, you are my people, be holy as I am holy. And we say, I can't do that. He says, no, that's not a self-improvement project. This is you are walking with me, and how do you become holy? Contagion of holiness. You touch him. You hold on to him, you embrace him, and therefore his holiness comes into you. And this is not, therefore, it's not some external course of behavior that you do, although there will be a result of your holiness. But the holiness comes because you have touched the holiness of God. And he says in this season, the Shabbatai, this new season is going to be a release of this holiness of God through resting in him, being with him, abiding in him. I have got a ton of more slides which we are not going to get to today. But here's what we are going to do. If it's okay with you. I talk more than I think I'm going to talk before we get started in this process. That's why I'll be fine if I come to India, because, you know, they sort of way to do it all day. You know, we'll keep them until the night. And I understand. That's the way it is in Africa. When I go over there, it's like, okay, they're just hungry. They just want to hear. And I know you are too, but you got to get out of this building. This building is a barred building. Yeah. So here we are. I hope what we have showed you is you are on a scheduled season of departures, heading for a destination of great magnitude. The reason you were born in the kingdom, the reason you were redeemed for such a time as this lies right before you, on the other end of your leaving and your departure of where you're ready to go. On the other end of your grabbing a hold of the tzitzit of Yeshua's garment and saying, impute your holiness to me, because I can't find it on my own. I will never find it on my own. I need you to impart your holiness to me. Now, with that in mind, he's now pushing his finger into your hearts. And he's pushing your finger into your heads, because he knows those are the two places that most of the darkness resides. And most of the hurt and the woundedness resides. And most of the obstacles to you becoming who you were created to be reside. He's going to put his finger on any unforgiveness. Whether he'll do it in this room right now, I can't tell you that, but I know that before this day's over, before this season's over, for sure, he's going to put his finger on you, and you're going to say, but he doesn't deserve, she doesn't deserve, they don't deserve my forgiveness. He said, that has nothing to do with it. It is just the kingdom of what we do. If you follow me, my holiness comes out, and your voice changed from don't ever touch me, don't get into my comfort zone, don't mess with my life, don't mess with my stuff, to Father, forgive them, they just don't understand. And it becomes the most natural thing. Now, when that happens, you become a source of spiritual release and power upon the earth. When forgiveness is your mode, and your mercy is your mode, whenever kindness and gentleness is your mode, that's why he calls these things the fruit of the Spirit.
That's right.
The fruit follows the seed. It has the same characteristics as the seed. Now, this is, if you're going to say we're part of the kingdom of heaven, and we bear the seed of the Word of God, the seed of Messiah, if we say this, then the fruit has to be there. He says, I'm not trying to punish you. I'm trying to tell you, it's in you. That seed is in you. All you have to do is avoid and get away from some of the things that are keeping the seed from being germinated. Okay? So, what kind of things can we give up? What kind of things can we yield to Him? What is it that He wants us to put His finger on in each of our lives today? Now, He's sung over you today through my poor voice saying, you are my masterpiece. He designs you with beauty and with majesty and with goodness and with powerful impact upon your world. I designed you in this glorious, beautiful way. What I see right now is not quite what I put into you, so let's move on to the next stage. Let's go into the deeper levels. You know, I have this vision in my mind that I will come to the end of my days on this earth. Who knows when that will be? I'm not in a hurry. Whenever I come to the end of these days, and you know, you always hear about your soul, your spirit leaves your body. I don't know. I'm not trying to give you theology on that. I'm just saying, in my vision, I see myself going up there and hearing this question: did he live a beautiful life? Did he live a beautiful life? Did he leave behind a beautiful legacy? Did he leave behind the fragrance of his kingdom? Now, that will stir you. I hope it stirs you. If not, you know, we need the defibrillators. We need to clear. Because you see, we only have, who knows how much longer we have time. Time is, I'm not trying to push you on time. I'm just trying to tell you, look, you know, however old you are, you're never going to be that old again. It's now time for us to say, isn't this is our season to live a beautiful life, to leave a beautiful legacy, to leave the beautiful fragrance of our King. Well, I'm going to end with that. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to bless you with the Aaronic blessing. Before I do, Joe or Adam, anything else we need to cover from that standpoint?
No? Great.
All right. Before I pray, please sense how deeply He loves you. How deeply you are loved by the Creator of the universe, and how much He sees of beauty in you. Though you may not see it, He sees it just waiting on the edge, the tip of your tongue, on the edge of your fingers, waiting to come out. So as I pray this, understand He is speaking to you as a father speaking to his child. Oh, Father, Abba, you are indeed so glorious and so beautiful, so majestic, and you have chosen us, chosen me, chosen these beautiful people here, and you've put into them your own seeds, your own attributes, your own characteristics, your own breath. Thank you, God. Thank you for the privilege, the honor of carrying that breath and carrying your seeds. May you, Father, begin now to move things aside, do the tilling of the soil around the fig tree, to keep digging around it and watering, to make sure that we reach and produce all the fruit that you designed for us to do. Father, cleanse us of unforgiveness and anger. These are not to be our norm. Cleanse us, Father, of woundedness and worry. This is not our life. This is not the seed of the Holy One. Cleanse us, Father, of bitterness and rage. Cleanse us, God, of these things, that we might see the full beauty of the seed of your word come forth in our lives. May we live beautiful lives. May we leave a beautiful legacy. And may we leave the beautiful fragrance of you, our King, everywhere we go. Do it in Yeshua's name. Amen, we pray. If you would, just kind of stand for a second and get in whatever position you'd like to receive. I'll sing the Aaronic blessing over you. The blessing of Shabbat, the blessing of His words, the blessing of His countenance upon you. Yivarech Adonai Yishmerecha Yareh Adonai Panav Elecha יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך Shalom. And may the Lord bless you, keep you, be gracious to you, may he make his face shine upon you, may he lift up his countenance upon you, may he give you wholeness and wellness, protection, provision, security, hope, faith, beauty, majesty, and peace. Amen. Amen. Thank you for inviting me. It's been such a pleasure for me. And I long to hear the stories of what's going to happen in Monument and Colorado Springs and all these areas in the coming time. And y'all listen to the stories of what's going on in Texas. We're going to see some good stuff take place. Thank you.